Um, I got an illness when I was 16, and that basically it was an intestinal illness and constant exhaustion. And so I um, was trying all kinds of treatments and it didn't work. And then when I was 21, my appendix burst, but because I had pain in my belly all the time, I didn't notice how bad it was. And then I had sepsis. And then I got into the hospital and I almost died. And I was 21 years old, and I realized there's something completely wrong. I'm in the wrong life. I'm in the wrong body. This is not me. And then they kept me in the hospital a total of 11 months, and they tried to find what was going on. They thought they found it, and they destroyed my intestinal flora to see if it would start again. And then for 4 months, I um, I felt much better. And then it started again, and then I thought I've given Western medicine enough chance. And then I was a child of the 60s. I'm talking about this 1969. Um, and there were psychedelics around, and I was part of the Criminological Institute in Leiden University, studying the legal attitude towards psychedelics. And I did some participatory research and found that there was a whole other world out there that I had absolutely no knowledge of and no understanding of, and that something
Just
else
what
had to happen.
can I ask one thing, Robert?
Oh, please, absolutely.
were you still having symptoms at this time? Had you kind of overcome
Oh
some
no,
of your symptoms?
the symptoms were completely there. What
Right,
the interesting thing for me was that the symptoms disappeared after a year and a half of analysis, and the
right,
analysis was focused on dreaming.
right.
And so what happened was that my then wife said you should go into analysis. She was from New York. I'm Dutch,
Mm.
and I just finished law school. And she said you should be in analysis or you should be in therapy. And then I had just read a book about Jung that I was not very interested in, but on the back side, on the back page, there was a picture of Aniela Jaffe. And I just thought that's an amazing woman. I knew she was amazing. Aniela Jaffé helped Jung write Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. And I said to Dini, I want to go and hear her talk because I think she's an exceptional woman. And so just from the picture. And so we found that she was speaking at a place called Eranos, and for our honeymoon, then we went to Eranos, and I went up to her and I said,
Not everyone
uh,
goes on their honeymoon to Eranos, by the way. I mean, you have to be a certain kind of
yes,
thinker.
well, yeah, in the first place, but I went very much for Aniela Jaffe, but also because it was an alternative way of thinking, but deep thinking. It was in no way woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with New Age.
Mm.
It is very rigorous thinking,
Yeah.
but along different lines than the current
Al
culture thinks.
Alternative, nevertheless, but alternative at the, well, I would say, at a really good level.
Yeah, well, alternative with the same kind of rigor as
Yeah.
other sciences. The
Yeah.
rigor of the thinking at Eranos was
Mm.
completely superior. And
Mm.
so, what the New Age has very much is fuzzy thinking,
Mm.
and it doesn't build up on each other. It just is one intuition after the next, and that's how you get into these amazing conspiracy theories. So we went there, and I said to Aniela Jaffe, I would love to be in therapy with you. Do you take people in therapy? And she said yes. And so I also met James Hillman there, and I said to him, Dr. Hillman, I've used LSD and I had these strange experiences I'd love to talk with you about. And he said,
He
oh,
did.
yes, absolutely.
Well, that's funny because when I've read him, it's like, what did he call it? The hypnosis of the 60s. And he seemed a little bit against LSD,
Not
where
at
I'm,
all. Oh God, no, 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 no. And when I was working at the Zurich clinic, the Jungian training clinic in Zurich, we had an LSD license, so we used LSD in psychiatry. And
ah,
so, no, 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 it was not at all. He was very much against what I'm against. Also, is that fuzzy thinking, that
right.
kind of woo-woo stuff that comes very much also in psychedelics, where people have these amazing experiences and don't go into depth with those experiences and become addicted to the amazingness of the experience. One of the things that I found when I much later went into the outback and met with Ilyachari, this Nankari, Pitjantjara Nankari,
Yeah.
um, is there was nothing wow about his experiences. He would go and he would become an eagle and he would fly with his patient on his back to the center of the galaxy and would fall onto the ancestors' stick sticking out. And in that penetration, the patient would heal. Now, if you tell that in a New Age setting, everybody would say, "Whoa!" Nothing wow about it. There's nothing. It is just like talking
Well,
about
it's
the
kind
weather.
of his job in the scheme of things too, isn't
It's
it?
his
Like
job. It's just
there's
a
a
job.
certain practicality towards the,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And so Hillman was very much against that wow, wow stuff.
Mm.
And but he had nothing against LSD as an experience. I mean, he had been working with Gopi Krishna on his Kundalini experiences, so
Mm.
he knew those kind of experiences, and he
Yeah.
was very interested. But anyway, so Aniela Jaffe said yes, and
She
then
said yes, you
uh,
could speak to Hillman, then and then you thought,
no, no,
oh,
no, no,
okay,
no.
so
She said yes. No, no, no. She said yes. I will take you in therapy.
okay,
And we packed up and we were living in a very 60s commune in the country at the time. And we packed up our stuff and moved from Holland to Switzerland.
yeah,
And then you can't just live in Switzerland. You need a staying permit, and they were hard to get. And but you could get a staying permit if you enrolled in um, an institute of higher learning. So I enrolled at the Hume Institute to get a staying permit, and and I was very lucky that they would accept people of my age. I was 23 at the time when I started my analysis and started my training at the Jung Institute, which I don't think anybody does now anymore. And there was a very small group of us that were let in at this very, very early age. And
but you had been
so
through a very life death kind of
that's
experience.
it.
I mean
That's it.
that was
That's
big.
Yeah, I think that everybody recognized that. They
Mm.
recognized that there's nothing as deepening as facing death and facing death close up. So
Mm.
yes, that had changed my life. I think it's that illness was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't think there's anything better in my life except for the loves of my life than that illness.
A call,
So
a
that's how I.
call, a calling, a a um a strong
Uh,
voice, even though it's
no, it was a complete turnaround. I got just twisted around and put into another direction. And that was like, whoa, there's something happening over there that I hadn't seen when I was looking this way.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's like standing on a lazy Susan and suddenly being turned.
yeah.
And so that's how I got. And then what happened was, as I told you, my symptoms disappeared after a year and a half of therapy. And that's what made me interested in the relationship between dreaming and creative imagination and the body. So that I knew from my own experience that working with imagination, working with dreams has a direct effect on the body. And so that became my main field of interest, and that's what embodied imagination came from.
Let's go on to embodied imagination. But I just want to say one thing that I was telling you before we started, that when I read Dick Russell's book, it seemed to me that in Zurich at that time you were in that mob. I call you the Rat Pack, Hillman
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Pat Barry
absolutely.
and
It was a
Raphael.
completely the Rat Pack. It's a
But
perfect
but
name for it.
but exciting. It
The
was
one, oh, very. The most important person in it was not James Hillman, but Rafael Lopez Pedraza, because Rafael was the craziest of us all. And he had elephant balls. And so they were reading very strange things, like when I came in 71, they were reading a book of spells called the Picatrix. And they were studying medieval spells. No, not medieval. This was Arabic spells like from the 5th century or something. And everybody would just go crazy with them. And imagination was wild and it was all burning. And the inspiration was enormous. And we were all gathering at the Spring House, the place where Spring Journal was being published. I had my office on the top floor, and we would be in the downstairs room with a lot of the people that you mentioned, uh, and had a grand old time. It was, yeah, it was